Hello everybody, this is Thomas and Dollie, Dollie and Thomas, and we are live reporting to you out there. We have a special guest today, and you probably already know who it is. Those of you that has been following Mars Moon Space TV page on Facebook know that we got Ken Johnston with us. Hello Ken, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, Mike.
Fine, we're glad to have you here. Hello Dollie, my dear co-host, are you with us? And Dollie disappeared.
Lost the audio.
We have had some serious troubles today, trying to to start here and get it all to work today. Here, let me just see. Dollie, are you with us?
Hello, yes.
Yes, there was some sound there. Yes, we hear you now. Hi, Dollie.
Bizarre, we've had sound problems. Hello, nice to be here, and hello, Ken.
Good to see you.
First, I would like to say to you, Ken, what a wonderful uniform you are wearing. It looks...
Well, I don't have any time after we finish to be able to get across town to where the squadron meeting is going to be, and it's going to be in Class A uniform, so you get to see all the brag rags and everything.
We are more than just honored to have you here in our live show today. I would like to ask you, what is the latest news from Ken Johnston?
Well, I guess the latest news is I'm finally getting back to normal after being somewhat escorted out of India 2 weeks ago. That and the whole schedule is getting booked up. We're getting all set and ready to go and meet with you folks here in a couple of, a few more weeks, I guess, and down in Texas as well. It just it kind of goes along with what I've been saying, that we are now hitting into from just soft disclosure to full-fledged disclosure. I'm ready for it.
You're ready for it. Can you get closer to what happened in India? You said you got escorted. Yeah. I'm curious.
Tell us, yeah, I'm curious.
Well, I was invited to come to India and speak to as many as the different universities and high schools and a few of the even preschools. In fact, one preschool, a young fellow, 4 years and 10 months old, came up on the platform where the dignitaries were, and me, I wasn't one of them. Well, at any rate, I was on the platform, came up, shook hands with me, and said, my name is, however you pronounce it. He says, and I'm going to give a speech. And I'm looking at this little 4-year-old kid, and I'm saying, well, that's great. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. He said, thank you, went over, picked up the microphone, and for 10 minutes, he talked about every planet in our solar system, how big it was, where the orbit was. This young genius was absolutely breathtaking. Anyway, so I, as I say, I was invited. I went over there, and they treated me like royalty. It was awesome for the first week and a half, and then I was under contract to be back in the United States by the starting on the 15th for the UFO Congress in Scottsdale, Arizona. So no sooner did I get back than there for 5 days, and then I left from Arizona and went back to India. And was met and went over to where in the world? Oh, Assam, the state of Assam, and was met at the airport and treated just great. And they took me up in the mountains, a couple of hour drive to see how beautiful some of the areas were there. And that night, I'm barely asleep at about midnight. A knock on my door, and the young man who's been my escort and guide, he says, I don't know what's going on. He says, but everybody's in a panic, and he says, I'm trying to solve it. And so they had I don't know whether there's a government representative. Anyway, an inquisitor came into my room and for several hours quizzed me on everything that I've ever done and having to do with space, aerospace, Apollo, etc. And it seems that a gentleman, that's the wrong word to use, named James Oberg had contacted the government there and said that I wasn't this, I hadn't done that, I wasn't there, I had blah, 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 just spewed out all kinds of venom. And rather than do their own research, because he said he's a representative of NASA, and when in reality he's an advisor, or a consultant, a consultant occasionally any rate, I knew Oberg back in 1971, and then back when he was at NASA, and I thought we were good friends. About 6'6", 300 pounds. Any rate, what they did, and I thought I had a copy of one of my latest book out on Ken's Moon, and I showed them documents and everything that are right there in the book that proved who I am. And so when the morning came, I thought they were taking me to the government place so that they could all look at my records and things. Instead, they were taking the back roads to the airport. As soon as we got to the airport, they put me in a holding room, and they went and got the chief of security at the airport, and they went to the head of the line, got me a ticket, put me on an airplane, flew me to New Delhi, and just dumped me there. They wanted to get rid of me, I guess. And at the same weekend, same time, ISIS was having an uproar in Assam. And on my own, I finally found a place where I could get. It cost me $1,200 something just to get a one-way ticket back to the United States. And so when I got back a week ago, last Sunday, we've been fighting and finding out what all went wrong, and now we're piecing things together. Now we know exactly who did what. We have copies of the letters emails and letters that he sent over there. And I think the attorney that we're talking to has everything in line, and he can just kiss it goodbye, because we've had all we're going to put up with. So now it's all set, ready to keep things moving right along, and going to other places and presenting Ken's archive. And I love the fact that people are finding things out of the pictures that I've saved over the last 47 years.
Sorry, I just have to. Oh, that was quite some of an experience to go through in India. And James Oberg, yeah, what can I say? Most of us in UFAN know who he is, know what he is representing, and only a few of us actually haven't blocked him yet on Facebook or on YouTube for some very obvious reason. He's been blocked by most of us here, and
he must have gotten rid of Dollie, because she disappeared.
Are you still with us, Dollie? And Dollie is gone again.
I am still with you.
Okay, there we have
good.
Dollie.
I just
All right.
changed locations because there was a problem here, so I had a little bit of technical failure. So if I disappear, I'm really sorry.
Okay, we hope to get the best out of it today here. And I have a very bad internet connection on my broadband today here, and we are using another mobile upload for this live stream here. So I was actually trying to follow the comment box here, and for you out there that are listening, you can ask questions in the comment box here live while we are speaking. If you have something you want to ask me, Dollie, or was our special guest Ken Johnston about here today, but be patient, I need to refresh my window here on my little tablet. It's taking quite some time today. We had our troubles today, didn't we, Ken?
Yes, we have. It's no matter what, even though we have the feeling that the government wants all the information out, we still have these rogues that out there that think that they're in charge of the world, and that they jump in and cause all kinds of problems.
So,
oh yeah.
Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Mars, the conference, the 6th annual Mars conference in Mobile in Alabama. You are going to be speaking there.
I'm on the roster, so yes. I guess I will.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're going to speak about at the conference?
Well, certainly, a lot of people that haven't really followed much that's been going on the last decade or two kind of want to know how I wound up in a position where I had access to the original pictures and negatives and film from each of the Apollo programs. And so I give them a little quick rundown on who I am, where I came from, and how I wound up at that location. And since I donated a high-definition copy of everything to the Roswell UFO Museum and Research Center, International UFO Museum and Research Center. People have been coming in from all over checking that. Let me close this thing off here. I hate to do that to her. That's Nancy Red Star. If you know who that is, she's very famous.
Okay.
She still hate me for doing that, but it is. Life is as it is. I should have done that ahead of time. My apology. Anyway, so I'll be showing some excellent pictures that are out of my archive where people have actually found anomalies and some very clear pictures. What I enjoy the most is when people say, I've got photograph AS15-88-11970, and it looks like there's something there. And then when they pull up my picture, compared to the ones the one they have that have been airbrushed out, they just go haywire with it. It's exciting to see the difference. I saved all the pictures and things in sealed plastic sleeves to keep most of the oxygen out, and as a result, after 47 years, they're still in excellent condition, and they're originals. They're not digital.
That's some of the best that ever happened for us anomaly hunters and researchers. That was when you came out with with that extra set of images from the NASA archive. That was a wonderful job you did, and we cannot thank you enough for what you have done, not just for us, but also in the name of truth. And we have a question here in the live chat here, and you almost answered it before, but this is Russell Rustybrook asking, Ken, do you think some people at NASA want the truth out?
Yes. In fact, I'm waiting on a friend that I've known for 25 years. His name is Vance Davis. Now, Vance Davis was part of the Florida, I can't think of the name of it. Excuse me. He and a couple of friends actually went AWOL from Germany. They were on the American side of the wall before it came down, of course. And he was was part of the communications network that was monitoring all the communications from Russia on their side. And as fate would have it, I wound up with a friend by the name of Boris Yaroslavtsev. He came to America, and he wanted to find out about Masons, and I just happened to point him in the right direction, and we became very good friends all these years. And the first time he had a chance to meet Vance Davis, they started talking about what they did. Boris was on the Russian side, Vance was on the American side, and they communicated. They didn't talk to each other, but they monitored each other's, and so they started saying, your call name was such and such, and the other says, yeah, and they wound up, they knew each other by call signs back during the Cold War. But at any rate, now you see that your question, I diverge a little too much sometimes when you get me talking. They wanted to know, say again, what was the question?
Russell asked, Ken, do you think some people at NASA want the truth out?
Yeah, and that's why Vance is coming and telling us that he's had communications from, if you call it the hidden government or whatever, that says that they were very glad that the information is coming out as it is, because now what we are doing, I mean people like Dollie and yourself and myself, that's coming forward with information where we have documented proof. We've created, and I consider it kind of like a tsunami. There's this huge wave, and behind it are the masses of people that have had contact with extraterrestrials. And we're just kind of riding up on the crest at the top, keeping it going to the point that the government has no choice. They have to come forward now and tell the truth. And they can give all the excuses they want, and we'll accept it, that, they were doing it for our best, etc. Just like the Brookings report told President Eisenhower, that we can't handle. Well, now we can handle it. And it's time. And I would add to that business about donating to Roswell. There are a lot of people out there like myself. Well, now I take that back. At my age, there's not very many of them left. There are people out there that have had access to documents and information and proof that have kept it hidden because they're afraid that something might happen to them. Now that we've broken the ice and we've crested the tsunami, they can come forward without fear of being annihilated or whatever might happen to them. So we just come forward. My biggest thing I say is, hey, get it told, get it out now, because if you keep hanging on to the secrets until you die, then it's gone and we've lost it.
Dollie?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
We hear you
Please
fine.
say you can hear me.
Yes, we hear you
Right.
fine. If you have something you want to ask Ken about, didn't you? If I remember
Yes.
correct. Yes.
Yes. What was it for you in the end that absolutely said that you have to come forward now with this? What prompted you? What broke the camel's back, if you like?
Well, I was so busy working for the Boeing company as a 737 flight instructor, and I've always been a bit of a science fiction fan, and there are other reasons why. But as a small child, at any rate, when I would get a book, I always liked to get the author's signature, and I had this book called The Monuments of Mars, of course, by Richard C. Hoagland. And one of my associate pilots called me on one of my evenings I had off. Well, the next day he said, Mr. Hoagland's going to be in town in Seattle, Washington. He says, I can't go. Why don't you go to the meeting? And I thought, oh, that's a great idea. So, and I'd listened to him on Art Bell a number of times, and he had said, if there's people out there that have information, you need to come forward, just like I just said for everybody else. And I thought, well, okay, I'll write a little letter of introduction. And I went, so I wrote a letter of introduction. I went to not the center, but where the event was supposed to take place. Went in the front door, and I went up to buy a ticket, and I handed the young lady there at the desk my letter of introduction. She looked at it, read it. Her eyes got big. She looked up at me and she says, "Don't move. You're who we're looking for." And I'm thinking, oh, I am in trouble now. And so she took off and went behind. And the next couple of minutes, Mr. Hoagland came out and asked a couple of questions. He says, "That's great. We're looking for," he says, "we'll talk tomorrow. I want to come over and take a look at the pictures you've got." And all. Took me inside, set me down on the front row. And at the end of that, the next day, they came over to my house, and I'd kept everything. I had a huge double door safe, several thousand pounds, that I came across years ago, and that's where I'd kept my archive safe. And they were sitting down, going through, looking at pictures, and just excited as all get out. And my wife's looking. She says, "What's this image in the visor of the astronaut on the moon?" And that's where once we looked at that and saw it was there, we coined the phrase that if you want to know what NASA did not want you to see, look in the visor of the astronaut having his picture taken. Because you can see in the visor, you can see the other astronaut in the background and curved slightly. And up in the top of the visor, there was this image, something suspended up in the atmosphere or black.
I remember that one.
So Hoagland took me to Washington, D.C. very shortly after that, the next week actually, to go in front of the National Press Club and come forward. He says, what we've got to do is make you so public that they can't do anything to you because the information is already out there. And so that's how it started back in 1996. And then again, I went to the National Press Club in 2007. And since then, it's gone, gone viral all over the world.
Yeah.
I have to say to our viewers out there, we are glad to have you here. If you want to help share the truth, then please share this video, because the original one we posted that was shared around was cancelled because we had some technical issues and we went over the time limit for starting the live stream as original posted, so we had to create a new one. So please share our video out there on your profile on anomaly or Mars moon related groups and pages, if you will. Keith is writing here, why do they feel like people can't handle the truth?
Well, let's go back to the beginning when 1958, as I understand, when pardon me, I got a nose itch. When President Eisenhower asked the Brookings Institute, which, if you don't know, that was the MIT of that era, and he asked what would be the effect if they were to discover evidence of extraterrestrials on extraterrestrials. And after the report came in, Brookings said, you'll most likely find evidence on Mars, the moon, and the Earth. And the other question was, what should we do? And the direction was, well, if you look at what happened when they came with H.G. Wells, had the radio program about the War of the Worlds. and people thought it was for real, even though they told them this was just an enactment. People jumped off of buildings. They committed suicide. They just knew that we were being attacked and being killed by aliens. And when you look at the way the religions and things were back then, absolutely anything saying that we were not the only things that God created, people couldn't handle it. Now, even last year, the Pope came out and says, well, there's bound to be intelligent life somewhere in the universe. We can't limit the capability of the all-powerful, all-knowing God. And so people now, and the reason being, if we were to have had, and this was something that Oberg said to me when we were in his office once, said, people are in such a panic, but we've gotten so used to things. Originally, you had the Blob, you had the various other sci-fi things that were monsters, and then you got to Star Trek, and then Star Wars, and you other intelligent sentient beings throughout the galaxies of the universe. There, that if a craft were to land in the White House lawn, and this big blue fuzzy character came down the steps, the little kids say, "Mommy, look, there's the Cookie Monster. He's my friend." So we are at a point now where direct contact. Now, if it were to go with just landing in front of Washington D.C. or in Russia or in England and Spurs, the governments could try to hide that. But the fact is, they chose to go one-on-one, direct contact with individuals all over the world, every language, everything else. To the point is, like I say, the masses of the people are behind the tsunami wave, saying, "We want to know the truth. We've been contacted. We know what's going on. Tell us why you haven't been talking." And now you feel it the same way, Dollie, right?
Yeah. I said this to you earlier, and when you asked me about me, and I said I just want to know the truth. I want to know what I've been experiencing all my life, and who these beings are, and I want to know just for me, it's for the world. We should know who we are, where we're from, and I feel that humanity's now ready for the truth. I feel that we've had the soft disclosure, and now it's time for hard disclosure. Is it now that time, do you think, Ken, for hard disclosure?
Absolutely. We've been calling it soft disclosure long enough. It's now time that we can make it. Well, let's put it this way: we don't have to go riot in the streets and all, but then it's getting to the point where when the press hears of someone who has been made contact with, they don't necessarily come out and say we're nuts, crazy, and what have you. They are willing to do a little research on their own and find out exactly what's going on. So yeah, it's I don't know if you want to call it hard disclosure. Let's call it full disclosure.
Full disclosure. Yeah.
This is amazing.
We're hungry for it, aren't we?
We want more, and we want more, and we want more, and we just can't get enough of disclosure. People are screaming for more news, more information about life in the universe, more information about our path, our real past, and what went on, more information about Anunnaki and our creators as such, and more information about the moon and Mars, and people are screaming to get more and more and more, and that's why we are here, that's why you are here, Ken, and this is a great gathering of people, having them together. We have our viewers out here also. I'm trying to follow the chat, but my tablet has died.
Oh no!
So I'm having some more technical issues here. So please be patient with me.
There's a lot of well, let's put it this way: I was only dealing with those things which I had firsthand experience with, and with all the literature, documentation, information, the astronauts that I worked with, as well as the other government people, NASA people, all my life. And I hadn't really looked at until I met some very wonderful people like Brett Cullen Shepard and Karen, there we go, Christian Patrick.
Just Christine Patrick, yeah.
People like you and Dollie and the other people around the world that have been willing to come forward and talk about your experiences with contact in many different ways, of course, contact with extraterrestrials and different species of extraterrestrials. And as I said earlier, I had avoided even discussing any possibility of any contact that I may have had in my life because of the credibility in breaking the not disclosure, but the attitude of the press, the public, the government. With me coming forward with absolute, undeniable, factual literature material, I needed that credibility. But now that it's out there, at the UFO Congress, I had Dr. Sasha Lesson do a hypnosis on me and do regression and discover exactly what some of these events and things that had happened in my life and sequential out different times in my life. That's going to be the next book when it come out. And I don't know what you want to call it. Let's see. We've got to come up with a new name. I'm using Mars One for most things, but how about the mini me? How about that?
Do you want to tell us a little bit about those? What your regressions and hypnosis told about you?
Well, let's say, first of all, I thought that the hypnotic session only lasted about 15 minutes. And then afterwards, I found it was over 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And it was really amazing. I've taken a long time to sit back and just read a transcript of the whole audio and video recession that they did. Things that happened when I was in the first grade. Lived in a little town called Hart, H-A-R-T, Hart, Texas. Total population, including farmers, was 560 people. And on one October, big torrential rain period, that little town's up just at the bottom of the panhandle of Texas. At any rate, tremendous electrical storm. Our neighbor, closest neighbor, about 1.5 miles away, called my stepdad. And by the way, it was an old crank phone. You know, you crank the phones and say hello. He called and said, either lightning or something hit out in front of your property, your house. So my other two brothers, older than me, they started getting ready. We put on our rubber boots and things, and it was about 50 yards out from our house across the dirt road into this other field. I like to say, well, my older brother, AR, was 5.5 years older than me, and so he was more sophisticated than us. He took his time. Jimmy, the brother in between, I was the baby of the family. I wasn't going to let him beat me, so I was the first one to run all the way out there, and I got to the edge of this area, circular area, where the maze had been flattened down. And on the far side, about 50, I would say like a half a football field, about 50 yards on the other side was this large bird, looked like what I knew was a whooping crane, stands about 4 feet high, was standing there, and it turned its head very slowly, looked at me, and then turned its head back, took about 3 steps, opened its giant wings, and those things stand 4 feet tall. They're big, and took a couple of flaps, and it snap, it was gone. So I asked Jimmy and AR if they see the bird. They said no. Anyway, during the regression that Dr. Session did, he asked me, he says, okay, let's look at the bird. He says, there's a zipper. Pull the zipper down. Let's see what happens. And in the deal, when I pulled the zipper down, it was actually a being, and the being took, I would probably say it was a gray, took about 3 or 4 steps, and then went boom, was gone. That is the first experience that I had, and then from there, events had taken place all out throughout my life, up with few long periods where nothing happened while you're so busy developing your career and all that, and having kids. And by the way, I have, between my wife and I, we had 5 children. We now have 18 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. So, hey, I'm 75. I'm bound to have done something right.
That's wonderful. That's amazing to have such a beautiful family.
It's a huge family for sure.
Yeah.
Well, they disowned me, so I may not have a family. Who knows now?
Ken, I want to go a little bit back in time, and I want to go back to your time at Johnson Space Center. I keep saying Air Force. No, Johnson Space Center. You worked there. You got these 5 copies of the set of images.
Oh, okay.
You took the forward.
Okay.
You
want me to tell about how I wound up with all the good stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right after Apollo 11 was completed, Grumman laid off nearly 30,000 employees nationwide, and there was what we call a reduction in force. It was into the primary contract, and the government says we're now doing research and development flights to the moon. We're now doing routine flights to the moon. So they laid all of us off, and fortunately, I had 2 weeks severance pay and 2 weeks to find a job with pay. Within a week, I was working over at the Lunar Receiving Laboratory, and then I became the director of the Data and Photo Control Department there, which meant that I had access to all the original pictures, original negatives, original films. And when scientists from around the world would come to NASA to pick up one of their lunar samples, they wanted to have pictures from orbit, the general terrain that it was found at, that their sample was located from, and also surface pictures from the astronauts' Hasselblad cameras that they would photograph it before and during collecting that particular sample. Well, I kept, I had about 15 filing cabinets, and I had 5 complete sets of all the pictures. As each mission went along, I would add all the pictures from that, both orbital and lunar surface. And whenever one of the scientists would ask for a particular picture, I would order one for them, but I had 5 sets. So, but if I started running low, I'd always order more. And when I would order more, I'd order one for my archive, just as kind of a backup in case we were short. So I was, unbeknownst to me, I was creating Ken's archive because right after Apollo 14, Bud Laskawa, who was my supervisor, came into my my department where I was. He says, "Ken, you need to get rid of all but one set." And I said, well, wait a minute. He said, "No, just get rid of them." I said, well, how about the universities that have science departments that would love to have a set? Why don't we donate them? He says, no, I don't care what you do, just get rid of them. And my little mind took what he said. I don't care what you do with them, just get. So I took 3 sets, and I threw 3 sets in the Dempsey dumpster, just like I was told. But I did take 1 set, and I sent it to Oklahoma City University for theirs, and I kept the 5th set as the primary control, if you will call it that, so that people could see what they were ordering. And then the personal archive of mine I set aside. And whenever the end of that episode of Apollo ended, I took that set home with me, and I kept it all those years.
Wow.
That's how. My mother always said, if it's something that's important to you, someday it may be important to someone else. And I guess I'm guilty of following what
she was right. She was so right. I cannot count the amount of hours I have spent on your archive and looking at all those amazing pictures. That's for sure. And every picture with an anomaly on Ken's archive will come out in public sooner or later. Many of them are already out, but as usual, when you're looking at an archive that size, it takes time before all the images has been processed and has been looked through. I can spend a whole day on 1 or 2 pictures, just going through 2 pictures, comparing them to NASA's originals, put them into my Photoshop, put them up along NASA's originals so you can see the difference between them, then take it out again, put it in again, start zooming on it, looking for anomalies, structures, evidence of life on the moon, or intelligent created anomalies or objects on the moon. And that is a job. I would actually say it's a job for a lifetime, because we will never be finished.
Nope. And it's still going on and still happening. And fortunately, I've seen pictures now from our orbiter, Mars orbiters, that have taken pictures and come back. And then, particularly with Brett Shepard, he has shown me areas where when you blow them up and look at the pixels, that were transmitted back, and you find this particular area where you can see where they've changed the pixel size, they've smudged things out and covered them up, and the same type of things that have happened to the pictures on the moon. It's well, at any rate, the truth is out there, is coming out now, and I love that old phrase: study to know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And I'm just as I can be.
Wise words.
Wise word, indeed. And I remember another thing you once told me in one of the other interviews we did here on Mars Moon Space TV, where you talked about a crater the Apollo astronauts were flying over, and they were recording something with a handheld video camera, and you got that video, and you were so excited because you wanted to present it for an audience of importance the next day. And what happened?
Right. Well, that was the crater Tsiolkovsky, and it was Dr. Thornton Page, who was the director of the Lunar and Planetary Science Department there at NASA in Houston, and at the Johnson Space Center. He had contacted me at the Data and Photo Control Department, says, Ken, go pull Apollo 14's film, 16 millimeter film, and he gave me the reel number, etc. And he said, set up a private showing for myself and some of the other scientists. We want to see it. So I did that, and I got it all set up. The building right next door to Mission Control, I think it was building number 8 or 7. And I'm showing this film. They're about 15 minutes long, each one of the reels they had. As we're approaching Tsiolkovsky crater, most people, if they don't know, most of the larger craters on the backside of the moon were named by the Russians because they got there first and they got to do it. Tsiolkovsky was a very famous scientist in Russian history. Anyway, so we're approaching Tsiolkovsky crater, and inside the bottom of the crater is about half of it is in shadow because of the angle that the sun is coming to the crater. And in the shadowed area, as we're approaching it, there are these domes, and I like to say, take your hand, turn it palm up, bring your fingers together, and look at the bubbles, or all 5 of the little bubbles there, and imagine what it would look like, domes like that, illuminated from the inside. But there they were in the shadowed part of Tsiolkovsky. The reason he picked me is because he knew I knew how to run a gun sequence camera projector, 16 millimeter, and plus I was in charge of all the other pictures, so I guess they figured I was safe. Anyway, he had me back up, come frame by frame, go back, do multiple frames, and then in turn, and then freeze. He turned to the other 6 guys and said, well, boys, what do you think of that? And they all started laughing. He said, okay, finish the showing. And I finished showing, and he said, tomorrow you can take it out and show it to the rank and file people at NASA at the main auditorium. And I was so excited because I knew, and my brother AR was going to be able to come over, and we were going to show the world. So I was keeping it quiet. I took the film back to the regular photo lab, checked it in. The next day, checked it out, took it into the auditorium, and people during their lunch break are coming in, and they're all excited because they've heard that they're going to see some great pictures of the craters and things on the backside of the moon that we don't get to see with our telescopes. So I'm showing the picture, and here comes Tsiolkovsky crater, and we're coming closer to it, and there's the shadow, and there's nothing there. It's gone. So I stopped the camera, told the audience, I said, I'm having technical difficulties, kind of like what you're having right now with the video. But I had film, and I took it. I had white gloves to go out, and I'm checking the film. All the holes lined up perfect, where it should have been the domes in the crater. And in reality, looking back, within 24 hours, they would have had to have taken those out, enlarged, painted out what they want, set it back small, pull them back in, and then made a duplicate. And made it because it's the same reel. Now, the 16 millimeter cameras, I'll throw this in real fast. The command module had one, it was mounted in the window, and the lunar module had 2. One was mounted in the lunar module pilot's window, the right-hand side, and that's the one that filmed like Neil Armstrong going down the ladder and stepping off on the moon. The second one, because the lunar module had 2, was a handheld, and it was Dr. Edgar Mitchell, astronaut Ed Mitchell, that was holding it, and he's the one that filmed the crater. Now, for years, I had people saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking to. Oberg tried to show me the 60 millimeter film from the command module, which didn't show anything because they were in a totally different orbit. Couldn't hardly even see Tsiolkovsky. And so I was just kind of left for years, decades actually, with only the knowledge of what I had seen and what I had talked about. And to finish off, Dr. Page told me to take the film back, and I did that. On the way going back in is when I ran into, and I think it was Donna Harris. She says it wasn't her, said it was her friend. There were two guys and a lady sitting at a light table about 2 foot by 3 foot, and they had negatives. I could see they were lunar pictures, 8 by 10s, and they were painting things out. And I asked them, I said, what are you guys doing? And one guy quipped very quickly. He says, "Oh, we're professional strippers." And the lady said, "No, but we call it stripping because what we're doing is we're painting out the stars and things that are on the surface that might be confusing to people." And they've been doing that for the press for years. And while I bothered me a bit, I went ahead and checked the film in. This was after showing it to the rank and file, and there was, it was gone. There was nothing there. I ran into Dr. Page on the way back to the Lunar Receiving Laboratory. And I said, "Dr. Page, what happened to those domes, those things we found on the lunar surface, in Tsiolkovsky?" He looked at me. Now, mind you, Dr. Page had one eye covered with a patch because he had lost an eye. He looked at me with his one good eye, and he closed it, and he says, "There was never anything there. It was a wink. There was never anything there." Well, I was planning on being able to do some more research and find it, but as fate would have it, end of contracts, we all got laid off. Well, I got laid off and had to go over to ILC Corporation, work on testing for the new space shuttle spacesuits that I did. Now, the rest of the story is that I didn't have any way of proving what I'd seen until I met Brett Shepard and Karen Patrick, and they were able to get a copy of the transcript of communications between Edgar Mitchell and Stuart Russa. And I think those are the ones. Now, I'll get attacked for making a mistake and saying the wrong name that I obviously don't know what I'm talking about. And he got a complete transcript in which it talks about, he says, "Yeah, here it comes. I can see it, the Tsiolkovsky." And I've got the frame, he's got the numbers, he's got everything right there in this transcript. That, and mind you, Brett was able to find from other missions, Apollo 15 and some of the others, even Apollo 11, pictures where they were close enough to Tsiolkovsky that they didn't paint it out enough that if you change the lighting on the pictures, you can actually see the glare of 5 domes in shadows. So I'm vindicated, and the truth is out there.
I actually have those transcripts, all of them, on my computer also. And one of the transcripts I remember, and I have the real audio voice recording from Apollo 11, where Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins looking at a crater, and Michael Collins says, "Oh boy, there must be nothing more desolated to live inside one of those craters," and Neil Armstrong replies, "Yes, I think you're right. I guess those people never get out that live in there."
Wow, I haven't heard that myself. That's new to me.
I'll post it on your timeline on Facebook.
Okay.
I have posted it before with the original voiceover from the Apollo mission. So you can have a look at that also, or listen to that.
The now with Harrison Schmitt, the only true PhD geologist that went to the moon, now on Apollo 17, the last flight, when that Apollo 17 had done the TEI, the Trans-Earth Insertion Burn, where they were heading back, and of course they went close enough to Tsiolkovsky as well, but the ham operators and mission control stuff, there was a signal coming from the proximity of the moon by the ham operators that said, they picked up the signal that said, "Do not return, you're not ready yet." Well, I take that, we're talking about 40 plus years ago. We are ready now, and it is time for full disclosure.
What do you think when you listen or hear that China is about to go to the moon, Russia is about to go to the moon, a lot of people want to go to the moon, countries, industries want to go to the moon, and NASA just stopped going to the moon and never returned again, and the rumors said that they were not allowed to come back on the moon, but who did not allow NASA to get back on the moon, and why is it that everybody else seems to be interested in getting up there right now?
I think the reason they're more interested in coming public is the fact that originally we were supposed to share what information we discovered geologically and historically about the moon, and the fact that we did not make public. A lot of the astronauts, in my personal opinion, have passed away because we had to sign non-disclosures to have our secret and top secret clearances. And one thing I particularly with Neil Armstrong, where he get his statement about knowledge being like an onion. If you peel away one layer at a time, and I'm paraphrasing, you get to the truth. And I think that was his way of saying it. But then, of course, and so many of them have been waiting all these years for it to come forward and come out the truth. So it's time. It is time is now. Get it done. And the rest of the other countries, they've given up on us our government to come forward with all the truth, other than people like myself and Donna Hare and yourself and all those people that have been doing the research, making it public. And now I feel like the governments, plural, better come forward before China, Russia, Japan, European agency, and all those land human beings on the moon again, and then it's all public. So we've got it. It's going to happen.
That's it. It's going to come forward first. Will be next.
They can say they did. They can say they did it for our good, because at the time the people were not prepared, and now we have been through all of this mass media indoctrination from Hollywood and all the other countries of the space programs, and you name it. Everybody can say, "Oh yeah, there's the Cookie Monster. He's my friend."
I have a question, because here in Denmark, where I am, there is a new magazine out. It's a brilliant one. All credits for that. It's called Conspiracy, or in Danish, Konspiration. It's a great magazine, and as the name says, it's about conspiracies and controversial subjects. One of the first subjects they brought up was, did Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing because the Americans could not show what they really filmed up there?
Okay, and I've answered this question numerous times.
I know.
And I don't have a problem with people saying Stanley Kubrick and them did make a movie. Okay, why? Okay, we were during the Cold War with Russia. It was a race to get to the moon, and we were so public. The guys getting in the spacecraft and launching, going off, and talking to them, in orbit till we were all ready, and then to the ones going to the moon. And so we were all following that all the way. In the event something were to happen, and we lost. We did lose some astronauts later on, but we were pushing our luck and going. And that's the reason Nixon canceled the last 3 missions, because we had pushed our luck with Apollo 13. We got everybody back. So by having that in their back glove or back pocket, the president would be able to say, "Oh yeah, we got to the moon, we walked on the moon, and everything else, but we lost them on the way coming back," or even so far as to say, "Yeah, they landed, and here's the pictures, and they had it." So it was pardon me, it's to cover your ass video.
Okay, very interesting. Ken, I know that you have to be somewhere else in 13 minutes, so
a few more minutes. So long as I cut off here by 4:30, I'll get to where I want to be.
Yes.
I've planned ahead for technical difficulties.
And again, I want to say to you out there, if anybody of you want to meet Ken Johnston for real, in person, you can meet him at the 6th Annual Mars Conference that is being held in Mobile, in Alabama, the 6th and 7th May, here at the University of South Alabama, where there will be some other top names speaking. Andrew Di Bashago will be there speaking. Sasha, Alex Lesin, Janet Kira Lesin will be there and speaking. We have my good friend Billy Carson will be there and speaking also about connection between Mars, Egypt, and Anunnaki. We have Louis Michael Reinhardt, that is a host. He will be speaking on the Saturday also. We have William Whitecrow that will be speaking. Did I say Andrew DiBasciago, our keynote speaker? I think I said that first, yes. And we have, as you said before, Brad Collins-Shepard and Karen Christine Patrick will come and speak also. And after them, some guy called Ken Johnston will be there. Our Ken Johnston will be there and speak at the 6th annual Mars conference. And I will be there right after Ken, and I will also speak at the 6th annual Mars conference. And we lost someone here. That was Dollie that we lost again. So Ken, I'm looking very much forward to meet you at the 6th annual Mars conference. Which one of the speakers are you looking forward to hear most?
Oh, well, actually all of them. Wow, I wish I had the list in front of me right now, and I could tell you that. Bill, I'm going to hear what he's got to say. I think it'll be great.
He is an interesting guy for sure.
I've lived with and worked with Brett Shepard and Karen, so I'm pretty well. These people absolutely blow me away with the amount of knowledge they have of ancient alien contacts on this planet and where they came from. What's going on and the languages, all of that stuff is amazing to me. But then again, they're younger and their minds aren't full of all the garbage I've got in mind. They've got, they're able to do that. So yeah, that I'm looking forward to hearing you too.
Oh yes, thank you. And as I've been saying before, you're one of my biggest heroes, if I may use that word. I'm looking so much forward to meet you in person, and you.
It's an honor. Thank you very much. Hey, I'm picking up. The new president says, I'm all the way. Thumbs up.
So, Ken, we lost Dollie. We had a bad start here, and we had no connection. We had to do a new live stream, and my computer froze, and everything went wrong. My computer froze again, and then I lost my internet connection. Then my camera stopped working. This is the first time I have had so many problems.
That's because you had me on live. That's why.
I was actually, that was my next question. Do you think there was anything to it? I guess it's happened so many times. I'm beginning to think. I know that I'm being followed constantly, and I know that anytime my name or OJ's name comes up, they know exactly where it is. So it doesn't surprise me, doesn't bother me, because what can they do? All the information I have is made public. It's available for the world, and so now they've got to take good care of me, because there'll be an awful big stink worldwide, and I'm proud to say that. And I'm don't look at it as being famous in any way, shape, or form, but just being recognized that the truth is out there, and the truth will set you free. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Ken Johnston, thank you a million times for taking your time again here on Mars Moon Space TV. This is Dollie and Thomas with Ken Johnston, and without Dollie at the end, but this is what happens sometimes. Sometimes you know where you start, you never know where you're ending, and this is where we are ending today. Ken, thank you so much for taking your time, and should we make an agreement on going live again another time without all these troubles here, and see if we can get some more Ken Johnston news out?
I'm game when you're game. We'll do it.
Okay, that sounds great. And for all of you out there, remember to, when this video are ending, click on the Get Live notification that will pop up as soon as I am stopping the stream here. You will get a notification every time we are going live. I apologize to those that have commented and we haven't answered, because my tablet also went down, my internet connection on my broadband went down, and it's now up again, but it's 1/10 of the normal capacity.
So we have to do it again. And everybody keep Mikey and the rest of us in your prayers so we stay safe and we keep the tsunami rolling.
I can guarantee you we will. For all of you out there, until we see you again, take care. Bye.
Goodbye.